What's up everyone, Lion Roar here, and we have a couple of brand new champions in Bloodline Heroes of Lithis. It's the brand new assassins, the VEMANA clan. So of course, I'm going to do a full breakdown and analysis. But first, download Gemstone Legends, a mobile RPG puzzle match game. Use the link in the description to start with free stuff, including a bonus hero. Alright, so first things first, apologies for the lateness in this video getting out. I was trying to escape a hurricane in Mexico, but I got out just before it arrived. So I'm good to go, I'm safe, I'm ready to do this breakdown video. And first I want to look at the trait of the new VEMANA clan. It's called Predator Blade, and it says, increases the caster's crit rate by some percent for 5 seconds when casting the ultimate, and it is not stackable. Now, of course, the higher the rarity of the champion you get, the higher the percent that's going to be. It looks to be at its max, if you have a level 22 trait, to be about 20% increase for 5 seconds. And that looks to me to be a pretty good trait. I don't know that I would chase it just for the trait. Like if the champions turn out to be really good, then it looks like a trait you would probably want to level up to 22. But if the champions aren't good, it doesn't necessarily seem like a clan you would want to get just for the trait. There are some traits out there like that, but I would put this in the very good tier of traits and not necessarily like the highest tier, but definitely one that you could consider, especially if you want to squeeze a little bit more damage out of damage dealing champions. And I think it would actually especially be useful on AoE champions. Now let's take a look at the skills. Just keep in mind that these are assassins. However, as we're going to see here, they act more like warriors. So I found that to be kind of interesting, and you'll see why here in just a moment. Okay, so the passive is the first thing that tends to impact the battlefield. That's why we're going to look at that for the female first. It's called Battle Surge. Each normal attack and active skill grants you an effect that ignores 10% strength resistance for 4 seconds up to 6 stacks. That could be really, really good. I like anything that's affecting strength resistance like that. Gain 70 energy when an ally champion dies or an enemy champion casts an ultimate skill. I do not like any kind of skills that depend on your own champions dying. So that first part of this passive made me a little bit nervous, but I do like the second part because opponents are going to cast ultimate skills a lot. Of course, you have to be careful with the synergy, because if you're preventing your opponents from casting ultimates, then this passive is going to be useless, right? So you need to pay attention to the synergies that you're trying to do here. There is another synergy that could exist for allies dying, and that could be, and this will take some testing to see if my theory is correct, but clones dying, that could be okay to trigger this. Or for example, if we get some kind of just recurring type of hero that can die and come back to life and die and come back to life. You know, there are there's a little bit of that in this game, but you would need a really, really good synergy with that to make that part of the passive good. Otherwise, I don't like depending on your own teammates dying. So, okay, Wind Claw is the active skill. Swiftly claws the current enemy 5 times, dealing 580% strength damage, recovering the caster's constitution up to 30% of the damage dealt, and reducing the damage dealt by enemies by 25% for 5 seconds. Each claw stuns the enemy for 0.5 seconds. So there's not a whole lot of new to this. Not in, like we can guess pretty well what's going to happen here, because these are effects we've seen before where we're dealing strength damage and there's some healing going on. There's a lot of this in the more recent heroes that they've released. But that is kind of a defensive skill we get here of reducing the damage dealt by enemies. I like to see that paired with other things. So dealing a lot of damage while reducing the amount of damage your opponent is dealing is what we want to see in order to get a net effect that's actually pretty powerful. I do like there's a little bit of CC here, but it is just a little bit. Desperate Assault. Charges immediately toward the enemy with the highest strength, excluding the current target, knocking up enemies in the path, so that's a little bit more CC, dealing 450% strength damage, applies a 6-second mark, preventing constitution recovery, and dealing 1.8% damage each second of the enemy's max constitution. Additionally, every 3 seconds, the mark deals damage equal to 12% of the enemy's lost constitution, up to 2000% of the caster's strength damage. Casting this ultimate refreshes active skill cooldown. There's a lot to say about this particular ultimate. It's dealing the right kinds of strength or the right kinds of damage that I like to see. There's strength damage, there's damage based on constitution, there's recurring constitution damage. So I do like to see this. It means that it could have a big effect in PvE and PvP. However, keep in mind, this is on an ultimate skill. So ultimates aren't going to go off a whole lot in a single PvP match. You might get the benefit of this once, maybe twice. So it's the right kinds of damage. This would be better on a passive or an active skill. Keep that in mind. Now, there is a lot to like about the female, and that is that she seems like one that's built to deal a lot of damage, to have a big effect in both PvE and in PvP. There's not a whole lot new, or there's not a lot of creativity to the skills here, so I think that we can forecast pretty predictably how this is going to do. I don't think it's in the highest tier of heroes out there, but it's going to be a pretty good one. So this is helping to bring balance to the meta, where you have lots of choices of different types of champions. You can try to line up their synergies a bit. And so the real creativity here is not necessarily in this particular hero, but who you're going to pair her with and who your other heroes are. So I think she's going to be really, really good, and she's in the tier of really, really good heroes that have come along recently. Let's see how she compares to the male. So the male passive, Tenacious Surge, during battle, every 8 seconds, the caster resists incoming damage and generates a permanent shield equal to 650% of the caster's strength. Now, sometimes my matches end before 8 seconds. Sometimes my matches go like at max to 15 seconds or shortly after that if we're talking PvP. So this may only happen once, but maybe that's all you need to protect him. Additionally, the caster increases their strength by 30% and gains 40% lifesteal for 4 seconds. So there we get some more damage dealing and healing in the process. While the shield is active, the caster is immune to control effects. That's pretty nice. If you can get underneath the control effects of the other team and get this off, then that could be very, very helpful. The shield is stackable. Each normal attack or skill hit reduces passive skill cooldown by 0.5 seconds. All right, taking a look at the active skill, Blood Shadow Slash. Quickly claws 4 times in a fan-shaped area in front, dealing a total of 650% strength damage to enemies within range. The final claw inflicts 1 stack of slash on the target, lasting for 4 seconds. During slash, the target's damage taken increases by 30% and also suffers true damage equal to 1% of their max constitution every 0.5 seconds, up to 2000% of the caster's strength damage. Slash is not stackable. But this text is exactly the kind of thing that I want to see on an active skill. That's a lot of strength damage to be dealing. And also, slash looks to be very powerful. I wish it was stackable, but 30% is a lot. Taking on 30%. And if you put the Kivok clan trait on top of this, so while slash is not stackable, you can still stack the amount of damage being dealt to enemies on here. Again, another thing that looks like it could be really powerful for both PvP and PvE. Now, what's really cool about this particular skill and what people need to keep in mind is it's not just increasing the amount of damage he's dealing. Remember, it's damage taken. So it's not just him that's dealing the damage. It's everybody on your team also dealing damage. So this is one of those skills that makes the whole team better. Those are things that I like to see. Even if he's not coming out on top as the top damage dealer on your team, the others are dealing more damage because of him. So he is one of those heroes that has the ability to be more than the sum of his parts. And we haven't even gotten to the ultimate yet. Shadow Strike. After a brief charge, the caster leaps forward towards the weakest target on the field, dealing 450% strength damage to enemies along the path, inflicting slash for 4 seconds. We do get slash again in case it had already worn off on the previous one. then claws the target's direction, dealing 600% strength damage to the target. If the target's constitution is below 50%, they take additional true damage equal to 30% of their lost constitution up to 2000% of the caster's strength damage, extending slash by 2 seconds. So although slash is probably only going to be on one target at a time, it's probably always going to be up, to be quite honest. So this ultimate looks really powerful for being able to deal damage. Now, do note, this is very similar to Askavarj as far as what it's doing, but also this is on an ultimate. This isn't like Askavarj where it's happening earlier in the battle. So you're probably going to want to get creative with the clan traits if you want to take use of this. Now, where this appears more like a warrior than an assassin is that both of these heroes aren't really going into the back line like assassins typically do. They're kind of charging forward like warriors do. And a lot of this is dependent on their melee damage. Kind of interesting. But if you want to get them into the back line, it's going to be dependent on the charge. My first thought is the Shoten clan trait. You would probably want to put on him so the ultimate goes off sooner, and probably Pure Heart. So he's going to go into the front line, probably get stuck there. While he's getting hit with passives and active skills, what's going to happen is that Shoten clan trait will charge him right up, and then 1 in 5 hits or whatever with the Pure Heart will allow Bulko. That's why you need Pure Heart. Will allow the Bulko effect to go away if you're facing a lot of Bulko, so that he can charge forward and get into the back line early. You're probably going to need those 2 clan traits. I say probably because this is not tested yet. I'm just theorizing here. But you're probably going to need those 2 clan traits if you want to take advantage. I'm sorry, they're not both clan traits. The Shoten clan trait and Pure Heart, which is a basic trait, you're going to want those in order to be able to get into the back line to take advantage of this ultimate. And that's where he's really going to be used best. So, of course, that doesn't really leave a whole lot of room for other traits, but obviously we would want Brutal. And if you're really focused on dealing damage, then you're probably going to want to put Fierce as the other trait on him. Now, there is the chance, because he is it's kind of awkward, because he is an assassin, but he's acting more like a warrior, he's going to charge into the front line, and there's the chance he could be kind of fragile and just take a lot of damage and die before he even uses his ultimate. So it might be correct, instead of using Fierce, to think about some kind of protective type of trait as well. You could go with the Gultung shield trait on top to try and make him, especially if you're going to have Brutal, try and get that strength up really high. Using that shield trait should hopefully help to keep him alive more. Honorable is obviously a top tier type of defensive trait, way better than energetic, for example, in this particular case. So there's a couple of ways to build him, but I think you start with Pure Heart. I think you start with the Shoten clan trait if you can. Now, I realize not everybody has the Shoten clan trait. So if you don't have that, then I would just go with Agile, probably, to make him attack faster, to try and get that ultimate to go off faster. You should still have access to Pure Heart in that case, but most everybody has Agile, or at least you're working towards that. Now, as far as the female goes with traits, because I didn't really touch on that when I was talking about her, I mean, there's nothing special about that. I think the male is the one where you really have to think carefully about the traits you're going to use. For her, I think you just go with the normal types of ones like Agile, Brutal, Fierce, and Honorable, or Aggressive, or something like that, that is going to take advantage of the damage that she's dealing. So overall, I think they are both very, very good heroes. I'd be hard pressed to say that either of them are S tier heroes. I'm leaning towards the male being the better of the heroes, just in the way that he's dealing damage is also helping the rest of your team to deal damage as well. So I think he makes the whole team better, where she's really just a powerful type of hero on her own. He's powerful in that he makes everybody else more powerful. So I'm leaning towards male right now. Of course, this is going to take some testing to see if my theorizing is correct at all. If there's any thoughts that you think that I left out, or any opinions you have, or any testing that you've done that you'd like to let the rest of the community know about, please let me know in the comments. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, and I will catch you in the next one.